Starting this video with a couple of things. Firstly, Sledger is certainly not the best tower, and secondly, I hope you enjoy the video. Sledger is a melee crowd control freezing tower, able to hit several enemies with great damage while also slowing them down. But to truly understand Sledger, we have to go back to his origins. Sledger was added on the 8th of May, 2021 in the Frost Invasion update, alongside Toxic Gunner. On his release he was received well, though he was not that good. Several factors contributed to this. One of the largest factors was that freezing was very different, as chill effects didn't yet exist, and all freezing towers froze for very short amounts of time. Finding any sort of information on this is pretty difficult. I found no useful info in the wiki, though Wikicolor's Sledger video came in clutch. Sledger was way weaker on release, as on early levels, he had only one max hit and was inaccurate, very commonly just missing. Sledger was just a worse gladiator for a really long time. Sledger could only freeze at level 3, however he was way cheaper than now. Sledger saw no real use at this point, however he would stay in this position for quite some time. He was very much forgotten by Paradoxum, until a large rebalance, caused by Freezer's new rework, and a rework to the freeze effect. On the 21st of December 2023, the freeze rework would get released, alongside a long-awaited Sledger rebalance. Sledger was changed in a lot of different ways. The major change was in the cost, as he would get way more expensive and also deal way more damage. The rebalance made it so Sledger was a strong late-game staller, and worse for mid-game. Another huge change was that Sledger could chill enemies from level 0, making him great for slowing early-game bosses. In more detailed statistics, we could see that the placement cost was more than doubled, and damage increased greatly. However, the max hits was still only 1, making him not good at early game. At level 1 he could already hit 2 enemies at once, greatly increasing effectiveness. Level 2 is just bad, doesn't really do much and costs a whole 2.5,000 cash. At level 3 he starts getting better, 50% slowdown on hit is a lot, and the damage is pretty good. However, he costs a whole kidney and life savings. On level 4 Sledger deals twice the damage against chilled and frozen enemies, greatly increasing his damage output. However, that is an insane price tag for the damage. Level 5 is the only good upgrade, and even it isn't very good. Unless you hit all hits, Sledger wasn't great value, and the fact that he was a melee tower made it all the worse. But how did this affect Sledger? Well, he wasn't that useful, and saw rare use as few bought him and few who play even have him at this point of the game's history. Sledger would get cool skins, and stay relevant. However, everything would change one faithful update. Sledger's rework was a phenomenal success. It fixed the worst problems by giving more max hits on lower levels, increasing damage, and lowering prices. But what exactly changed? Well, by far the biggest change was in damage output and value. The huge improvements made him very much viable, both as crowd control and stalling. I will also point out that he has more max hits than mentioned, as level 0 Sledger has 2 max hits, though clearly hits 3. For some reason he has +1 max hits more than mentioned. Starting off with general overview of the reworked Sledger. Sledger has 3 different attack animations. He has this hit from the side, and then this kind of between his head and the side. Then he has the overhead swing. Level 0 Sledger has a white suit and some sort of protective vest, protective gloves and protected kneecaps, and wears a black beanie, and obviously wields a sledgehammer. He also has a beard and some ice on his face. Level 1 Sledger gets a black commando mask, no other changes. Level 2 Sledger gets a new sledgehammer, goggles and earphones, no other changes. Level 3 Sledger gets a gas tank on his back and receives more armor on the shoulders, legs and torso. Level 4 Sledger gains a white hood and more piping throughout his body, specifically on his shoulders. Level 5 Sledger gets noticeable ice on his shoulders, his sledgehammer also becomes frozen, he gets a mask, and the tanks on his back are bigger. Sledger also now shivers noticeably in his idle animation. On max level, Sledger gets the Aftershock passive ability, where every hit the ground freezes after 0.4 seconds, dealing 20% of the original damage, and freezing enemies. Sledger got an awesome new look, and all the levels are very distinct from one another, major glow up for me boy. Previous skins didn't get changed look-wise, except I think they got new animations. Here is just a quick overview of all the levels. Next segment will be detailed pros and cons, along use cases for Daddy Sledger. The Sledger is good at only a couple of things, but it does those things insanely good compared to most. Starting with the pros, the first thing is obviously the insane crowd control potential. Combined stalling and insane max DPS make it insane against hordes of slower and tankier enemies. Sledger is also amazing at early and mid-game slowing. Only to level 0 Sledgers can make fallen necromancers, squires, and fallens a piece of cake. Also great against stuff like mega slows and slow kings. Another crucial pro is synergies. Sledger is exponentially more powerful when combined with stuff like mortar, brawlers, electroshockers and supports like commander and DJ. If you take the correct towers, Sledger is king. But all these good things must come with major weaknesses. Cons. Most simple weakness is freeze immune enemies. These strip Sledger of basically all of his power, as Sledger can't do double damage against these enemies, or slow them down. For enemies such as fallen heroes, shields and hazmats, you need other damage or support. Brawler and DJ purple ability are amazing at countering this weakness. Sledger is also very weak against bosses, as he can't deal double damage or freeze them. He also has short range and no ability like Brawler to switch positions. Another very simple weakness that comes with short range, stunning. Sledger gets stunned and debuffed very easily. But what uses are there for Brawler? Brawler is great for fallen mode. The stalling is so great for late and mid-game, but there is another major use case that I use him for. Fallen mode speedruns become way easier with Sledger, as late game becomes basically free with even lower DPS. But as always, remember that Sledger is goated. Bye.